No CP+Female Strong+Farming+Getting rich. Unfortunately, Meng Qing, a little girl who had passed away due to her parents' misfortune, managed to escape the famine but fainted from a fever. She never expected that she would be so unlucky. Fortunately, the heavens never perished and she was picked up by kind-hearted beggars. Relying on her talent for identifying people, she led the little beggars from delivering takeout to gradually getting rid of their previous situation, becoming the top female richest woman in Qian. The original beggars were also cultivated by Meng Qing as talents who shine in various fields. Keywords of the novel. She delivered takeout in ancient times without pop-ups, she downloaded the complete collection of Ancient Takeout TXT, and she read the latest chapter of Ancient Takeout. Chapter 1. Crossing 3 days. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Crossing 3 days. Qian, we're back. A childish voice brought Meng Qing back to his senses from contemplation. Looking towards the location of the sound, a group of ragged children kept running over from outside the door. The leader is a young girl who looks 7 or 8 years old. As soon as I saw her, my eyes lit up and I pounced on her, starting to act coquettishly. Qian, we need a few extra one today, she said, not forgetting to lift the carefully placed small cloth bag from her arms to Meng Qing's eyes. The small face was written with 2 big characters, praise me. Meng Qing naturally won't be stingy with his praise, our big flowers are amazing. Every time we have new gains. The little girl named Dahua blushed a little and said with a wry expression, not really. It's because everyone is amazing and we all want to get there together. Meng Qing touched the heads of several people one by one and said with a smile, everyone is great. Now hurry up and wash them clean. We need to prepare for dinner. Okay, have a meal. I'm all starving. As soon as Meng Qing said they were going to have dinner, the children were all excited, but they obediently went to wash their hands. For a moment, the only water tank was crowded with people. Of course, Dahua still has a strong sense of leadership, and there have been no incidents of competition. Meng Qing was taken aback. This is her 3rd day in this world, and also the 3rd day she was rescued from the street by the big flowers. According to Dahua and his team, she was unconscious on the street at the time, with a hot forehead. It was thanks to a kind doctor who fed her ginger water for a long time that she survived. I almost thought she wouldn't be able to make it through. At this time, getting sick is a very scary thing, and a small cold can kill people. Meng Qing didn't expect that she would just stay up late and work overtime normally, and instead become a little girl who looked less than 10 years old. Moreover, from the only memory available, Meng Qing analyzed that this was a dynasty called the Qian, originally from the north, where a drought occurred and the court's relief food had not been received. Under the guidance of their parents, the whole family embarked on a journey of escape. Unfortunately, the little girl had bad luck. On the way, her parents passed away one after another, and she survived alone. With the obsession of finding a place to settle down, she arrived at this place called Xiaotao Town. Unfortunately, after reaching the limit, my body reached its limit and I fainted directly on the street. If it weren't for Dahua and these little beggars wandering in the town who saved her and brought her back, I'm afraid she might end up quietly dying on the street and being thrown to a random burial post outside the city for burial. Although the little girl still hasn't survived, she has been replaced by Meng Qing, a social animal from modern society. But let it be as it comes. 3 days is enough to make Meng Qing's mentality go from being completely unacceptable to now being content with the situation. After all, since everyone has come, it's not possible to die back. She is quite a rare life, why bother to die if she can live? As the saying goes, it's better to live than to die. Meng Qing thought of this and touched her chest, where there were some things that were quite important to the little girl. Of course, there is no money left, mainly the girl's registered residence and directions. This is something that can prove that she is a good citizen. Even without common sense, Meng Qing knew the importance of registered residence in ancient times with inconvenient transportation, which is equivalent to a modern ID card. Just because Meng Qing had been sick and dizzy before, he couldn't go to the Yamen to change his registered residence. Also, there are children like De Hua. After she regained consciousness, she had a conversation with De Hua and the others. Meng Qing found out that De Hua and his group of little beggars are considered the most vulnerable group of beggars in Xiaotao town, mostly children. Among them, De Hua is actually the largest among them, with an actual age of 10 years old, but her size is small, looking like she is only 7 or 8 years old. Most of the others look like they are 7 or 8 years old, with both boys and girls, and more girls. Including Meng Qing, there are a total of 12 people. Originally, boys were supposed to bully girls, but Big Flower was very powerful. Meng Qing had the privilege of seeing Big Flower go berserk once. It scared Meng Qing a bit. The fight was very fierce. It's completely different from the way she acted coquettishly just now, with a stark contrast. It is precisely because of De Hua's strength that she was able to survive with these children in Xiaotao town. However, after Meng Qing arrived, he became the oldest one, 12 years old. In addition, Meng Qing was already an adult, so his temperament was inevitably more stable. Although they only spent a short time together, De Hua and his companions inevitably developed a slight dependence on Meng Qing. In theory, the little beggar has a strong sense of vigilance towards outsiders. However, when Meng Qing comes into contact with them, he feels a bit sickly, and the threat naturally decreases in their eyes. In addition, the leader is De Hua, who is a kind-hearted and good child. So Meng Qing was able to coexist harmoniously with them. It has to be said that Meng Qing was a bit lucky with her. Speaking of luck, Meng Qing concentrated her mind and focused her gaze on the little adult De Hua. A piece of information appeared in the brain. Big Flower. Leadership attitude. Friendly loyalty. 60. This is Meng Qing's golden finger, or rather her talent. When she focuses on observing a person, basic information comes to mind. Although the content is quite concise. The top leadership should refer to De Hua's talent, but she doesn't know why it is this talent. Attitudes can be divided into friendliness, neutrality, and possibly hostility, as Meng Qing guessed, because she only found the first two among the people led by De Hua. The hostile has not yet been discovered, while loyalty seems to only appear in friendly attitudes, while a neutral attitude does not display loyalty. It was precisely this discovery, or rather the emergence of talent, that gave Meng Qing some confidence in her future life. At least you don't have to worry about people around you getting stabbed in the back. This is still very important. After all, human emotions are unpredictable, safety comes first. The discovery of the first talent is a surprising presence. This can enable her to be more knowledgeable and effective in utilizing people. After Meng Qing's efforts, all 12 of them have checked their talents thoroughly. 3 of them have a talent for carpentry, 2 have a talent for embroidery, 2 have a talent for business, 2 have a talent for reading, 1 has a talent for planting, and 1 has a talent for architecture. What Meng Qing didn't expect was that these children had quite good talents and could be considered promising. Meng Qing also knew deeply that good talents also need to be cultivated after birth. These children are just little beggars now, so who would go or be willing to go and cultivate them? If it weren't for Meng Qing being able to see their talents, I'm afraid the final outcome would only be to disappear from the crowd. Hope to like the new book, No CP, Female Top Performer, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Female Household Registration. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Female Household Registration. Chapter 2 Just as Meng Qing was pondering what she could do in this era, she heard the voice of De Hua calling out to her. Xiao Qing, come on, we've all washed up. Meng Qing quickly regained his senses. Come over now. Their food is very simple. They say it's rice, but in fact it's just rice soup. The only tool they can use for cooking is a broken pottery jar. But even so, every child cherishes their drink and is reluctant to waste it at all. Meng Qing still remembers the first time she regained consciousness. She saw De Hua carefully feeding her rice soup, and many children around her were watching the small bowl of rice soup continuously swallowing saliva. Although their eyes were full of longing, they were so obedient that there was no intention of snatching a drink. It also made Meng Qing feel particularly sorry for these children. So after her health improved, Meng Qing naturally began to think of ways to improve her life. However, there has never been much improvement. I can only temporarily bring big flour and they need to pay attention to hygiene. Wash hands and face, and teach them to drink hot water. She had no money on her body, although they struggled to survive by spending a lot, but in this era where wind and cold could easily lead to death, Meng Qing can only adopt the method of drinking more hot water and washing hands frequently, so that she and Dahua can reduce bacteria. Poor people never get sick, and Meng Qing has never understood the meaning of this sentence better than this moment. Because the medicine is too expensive. The only thing worth celebrating is that Dahua and his companions have developed a good habit of washing their hands before and after meals. Although Dahua and his team didn't understand why they were doing this, they obediently chose to listen. Meng Qing also asked Dahua and the others, but the answer he got was unexpected. It's clean and beautiful, and we want it to be as beautiful as Sister Xiaoqing. When Dahua said these words, Xiaohua's face was full of seriousness. It was also this incident that gave Meng Qing the experience of leading by example. For children, if you simply reason is useless to them, and you do it first, they will learn from you. This is a child's innate ability to imitate. After finishing their only meal of the day, everyone didn't disperse, but obediently sat around Meng Qing, looking at her with blinking eyes, full of anticipation. This is another crucial skill for Meng Qing to gain their friendship: storytelling. From crows drinking water to little frogs looking for their mothers. They couldn't stop listening to each little story and would gather by Meng Qing's side every time they finished their meal. Meng Qing naturally won't let them down, slowly telling those familiar stories. Of course, Meng Qing is a principled person who can only listen to one story a day. Based on this, they will also be given 2 simple words, such as 1, 2, 3, and 4. Even without paper and pen, Meng Qing casually found a stone and taught them on the ground. What's rare is that the children are all very smart. After late at night, Meng Qing ensured that Dahua and the others had all gone to bed before lying down in the outermost layer. This is the gathering place of Dahua and his companions, an abandoned house without a bed. The only thing that can provide warmth is straw. The source of income comes from spending a few won of money they earned from begging outside. Sometimes it's common to be beaten up by someone due to bad luck, but fortunately, the big flower person is clever and can often escape a disaster. When Dahua mentioned this, her expression was quite proud, and those around her, such as Arya, looked at Dahua with admiration in their eyes. But Meng Qing knew that it couldn't continue like this. Although Dahua and his team were trained to be very flexible, no one could guarantee that they would be so lucky next time. She is also a grand passerby, so relying on a few children to beg and support her is too cowardly for her. The first step is to find a job. Although she is starting a business, after all, she has been influenced by modern society and baptized by short videos. It is not excessive to say that she is knowledgeable and has not too many ideas for making money. But this involves a very important point, which is capital. To start a business, the primitive accumulation of capital is indispensable. Dahua and they are very reliable, but after all, they are all a group of elementary school students. So there are many things that Meng Qing needs to consider carefully. This is not a modern society with a sound rule of law, but an ancient feudal society where human life is like grass. The most important thing is modern, and there is also the concept of background capital. Like she is now, there is no one behind her. If she acts without authorization, it is very likely that the local capital, including the family, will swallow all the bones left. It can even endanger life. This is not Meng Qing's alarmist remarks, but in the original owner's memory, such incidents are not uncommon. In order to protect herself and the big flower group, Meng Qing needs to be cautious in all her actions. The only advantage is that her registered residence is the registered residence of good people, which is where her confidence lies. If it is a lowly person, including beggars, most people look down on them, let alone do business with them. In summary, Meng Qing has set her first step towards labor-intensive industries. Dehua, as the local leader of Xiaotao town, Meng Qing will ask her to take her to the Yamen tomorrow to improve her registered residence and visit the market by the way. Meng Qing, who had made a plan in her heart, finally caught Xiao Fang by her side and fell asleep. Squeezing to sleep makes it warmer. The next morning, the begging team, which was supposed to be led by Dehua, was led out by the second clever Xiao Feng with a few slightly larger ones. The smallest ones stay at home. Dehua led Meng Qing towards the direction of the Yamen. Xiao Qing, I know the way here, no matter where I go, said Dehua confidently. Big flowers are too powerful, I can remember such a complex road clearly. Meng Qing really loves Dehua's confident appearance too much. If it weren't for being inappropriate on the street, Meng Qing would want to pinch Dehua's small face. I thought to myself that it would be the same to go back and pinch after finishing the task. Little did he know what kind of big flower his face would suffer after, and still excitedly introduced the little details of Xiaotao town to Meng Qing. Miss Xiao Qing, Mrs. Zhang from that clinic is particularly good. When you were sick, he saved you. She's a super amazing person. Also, the hotel in Tianyue Tower, if you're lucky, can get a lot of leftover food. Every time the master there sees that I'm young, he gives me more. Some people still want to snatch me, but they don't run as fast as me. There are still many such things. In her ears were the chattering sounds of big flowers, but Meng Qingxi didn't feel any noise at all. Instead, she listened attentively and continuously improved her understanding of the unfamiliar place of Xiaotao town. She also received a lot of news about restaurants and stalls, which gave her a bit more confidence in her own ideas. Speaking and walking all the way, the county government office will soon arrive. When I saw the Yamen guard at the door, not to mention Meng Qing was a bit nervous. Mainly because there are too many TV dramas to watch, it's important to take care of them, otherwise you may not even be able to get in. Why is she poor? So I had to grit my teeth. As a result, she actually went in without any money. Of course, Dehua stayed outside waiting for her. However, he did not see the county magistrate, but was led to a middle-aged man. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Huff, then Huff. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Huff, then Huff. Chapter 3. From the conversation between the Yamen runner and the middle-aged man, Meng Qing learned that this man was the chief clerk of the county government and should be the person who managed the registered residence. Before Meng Qing waited, he heard the man say, "You said you are here to change your registered residence registration. Where is the original registered residence and why are you here? Can you find a way?" Fortunately, Meng Qing had already prepared, took out the registered residence and guideway that had been hidden in his arms, and handed them over. She said respectfully, "I came from a refugee and lost my parents. I want to settle down in Xiaotao town. This is my registered residence and guideway. Please have a look." Meng Qing is still a bit unaccustomed to her fluent language. That person didn't expect that the person standing next was actually a woman. I couldn't help but squint my eyes and carefully examine the person who came. It was discovered that although dressed in ordinary clothes and with some signs of disrepair, the advantage lies in being clean and tidy. Obviously, he is a person who values cleanliness, and what is rare is his demeanor that is neither humble nor arrogant. Ordinary farmers cannot raise such children. Unfortunately, it's not a man. After thinking for a moment, he still spoke up and said, "There are female households in this dynasty. Do you want to establish a female household?" Female household. Meng Qing was stunned upon hearing this. It was such a pleasant surprise that there was such a good thing. Fortunately, she had not been overwhelmed by the sudden surprise yet. But calmly asked, "I don't know, sir, what are the requirements and functions of this female household?" Seeing Meng Qing's young age, he was so calm and self-assured. Liang Zhubo nodded quietly. Women's household is a unique registered residence in Qian. It is mainly for those who have lost their husbands, or only women's families, and have no male servants and take women as the head of household, so they can inherit the property of the family. If you want to become a woman's household, you and your family can agree. By the way, the new registered residence can only be replaced with 10 wen. The reason why this point was specifically pointed out is because Liang Zhushu noticed that Meng Qing's situation may not be very good. Liang Zhushu briefly introduced the female household and then waited for Meng Qing's decision. "Change, you must change. It's such a good opportunity, not changing is foolish. It's just that the silver money is a bit difficult to handle, 10 won, she really can't take it out now. It's a bit awkward. If you can't get registered residence, it's not easy to find the cooperation of the principal. You can't make money, but you can't get registered residence without money." After much thought, Meng Qing had a bold idea in her heart. "Lord Hui, please help me change my name from female household to silver and money. I have a heartless request, please listen." After saying this, I bowed and bowed. With just one action, Liang Zhushu was convinced that this woman named Meng Qing had, or rather had, a scholar in her family. Because her bowing posture is very standard, which is a typical way of being a scholar. At the same time, it also indirectly reflects that being favored at home, one will not indulge their daughter in learning male etiquette. It was precisely these details that made Master Liang not refuse Meng Qing, but instead waited for her to speak up, thinking in his heart that he was only asking him for money or hoping he could help waive the fees. Although I guessed it, if Meng Qing really spoke up, it was inevitable that his evaluation in Liang's mind would be lowered. Fortunately, Meng Qing was not so direct. She chose a relatively indirect approach. She didn't mention borrowing money, but instead asked about the beggar. "Sir, these days when I arrived at Xiaotao town, I found many beggars, most of whom were children. I don't know if you know." Speaking of this, how could a county chief's Liang chief not know? This is also a big problem. Most of the children who become beggars are orphans and unwilling to go to the infant care centers set up by the court. The younger ones are fine, especially the older ones. If you can't see it, run outside. In addition, there are also difficulties in taking photos of flowers, and incidents of losing children often occur, not to mention those little beggars. It can be said that it is a major event in the hearts of the entire county government. Meng Qing suddenly mentioned this matter, but it was very unexpected for Master Liang. Fortunately, Meng Qing had no intention of playing tricks and continued, "To be honest, I fell into a coma when I arrived in Xiaotao town. If it weren't for the help of the little beggars in the town, I'm afraid I would have lost my life. After spending these days together, I have found that they are all very smart and clever, and most importantly, they know the streets and alleys of Xiaotao town very well, which is a very rare ability." At this point, Master Liang vaguely understood Meng Qing's meaning, but he didn't quite understand it. After all, he was familiar with Xiaotao town and would become familiar with it after living for a long time. When Meng Qing spoke, he had been paying attention to the expression on Liang's face, and naturally did not miss the expression of doubt. "I also noticed that our town of Xiaotao has a developed economy, frequent caravans, many restaurants, and a large number of wealthy people. If we could gather these small beggars in the town, it would obviously be of great use." He added Meng Qing's original intention was to guide Master Liang to draw his own conclusions, but he overestimated his patience. "Miss Meng Qing, if you have anything to say, feel free to speak directly." Liang Zhushu stared at Meng Qing with bright eyes, clearly showing great interest in her words. Especially the content she proposed that could make those little beggars useful is the focus of Liang's attention. Because I had some speculations about Meng Qing's family background before, I naturally had expectations for her words. Being urged, what can Meng Qing do? She still has to be obedient. Xiaoman has two plans for the little beggars. One is to let them stay at the entrance of the city, wait for the caravan to enter the city, and serve as a guide, recommending famous restaurants, inns, etc. in Xiaotao town to earn a certain fee. They can be considered as intermediaries, allowing them to rely on themselves. Another way is to organize small beggars to cooperate with restaurants, helping them deliver meals to their doorstep. This way, diners can eat at home, and the restaurant can earn an extra profit. The small beggars also have a place to stay. As soon as the words fell, Liang Zhushu excitedly patted the table and stood up. Good idea, that's really a good idea. If it weren't for Meng Qing being a woman, Master Liang would almost be unable to resist his love for talent. If she were a man, Master Liang really wanted to recommend her to the county magistrate. Unfortunately, it's really a pity. After calming down, Master Liang sat back in his seat. Meng Yangzi, your method is very good. It's almost a good thing to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. But how can you guarantee that this matter will definitely succeed? After finishing speaking, I looked at Meng Qing with anticipation, obviously hoping that she could give me another good idea. However, Meng Qing didn't want to be in the limelight. This time, it was just a helpless move. In order to waive the handling fee, it was also a disguised way of raising a banner for herself. By the way, take precautions for what you need to do in the future. Lord Hui, whether it's seeking the opinions of restaurant merchants or integrating beggars, it requires adults to come forward, while ordinary people just have an idea. Xiao Xiao blocked the situation. But immediately he said, if the adults have finished negotiating with those merchants and need someone to help with the experiment, the small people naturally have no hesitation. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Collecting Messages. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Collecting Messages. There is a balance between advance and retreat, and there is still room for improvement, which makes Master Liang even more impressed by it. Being able to receive such assurance from Meng Qing naturally satisfied Master Liang. Such a big matter still requires the county magistrate to make a decision. I just heard that you were saved by a beggar from the county before, so I think this idea has the intention of helping the beggar. Liang, the chief clerk, touched his 8-character beard and guessed. Your Excellency knows everything. Meng Qing gave a small flattery, but did not appear flattery. In this case, the owner of the master book will temporarily exempt the cost of registered residence change, but it is a matter of great importance. I can't guarantee that the county magistrate will agree, so you still need to be able to come up with the facts. This sentence implied a hint, and Meng Qing understood it clearly. It's also in line with her. Understanding that Master Liang was intentionally reminding her, he quickly arched his hand and said, I will handle this matter as soon as possible. Let the adults see the results as soon as possible. It was not long after the agreement, Meng Qing got her own fresh female household registered residence registration. When she left the county government office, she was in a high mood. Anxious as she waited outside, De Hua, who kept scratching the ground with her feet, rushed over to see her coming out. Fortunately, Meng Qing reacted quickly and hugged the person, but even so, Meng Qing was pushed back 2 steps by the impact of the big flower. Fortunately, Meng Qing knew that it was probably because De Hua was worried about herself. So he touched her round head and comforted her, I'm out of here now. Let's go, didn't you say you're taking me around Xiaotao County today? After speaking, the two of them left together. After Meng Qing left, Liang Zhushu hurriedly went to discuss Meng Qing's ideas with the county magistrate and master. Sir, master, what Miss Meng said is not unreasonable. After fully exposing Meng Qing's ideas, Master Liang said excitedly. Fang County magistrate and master exchanged a glance, both seeing the intention in each other's eyes. But after all, this is a big deal, so we cannot listen to this little lady's one-sided words. The master pondered for a moment and said, as you said, Miss Meng Qing will make some progress as soon as possible. If it is really feasible, the government will take action no later. The county magistrate also felt that what the master said was reasonable. As the county magistrate and local officials, it was not easy to act hastily. Under the leadership of De Hua, Meng Qing is heading towards the direction of the most prosperous West Market, while not forgetting to observe and listen to all directions, drawing the intelligence he needs from it. Among them, Tianyue Tower, which De Hua mentioned earlier, is naturally indispensable. According to De Hua, this restaurant can be said to be the leading restaurant in Xiaotao town, with excellent business. Meng Qing stood cautiously not far from the Tianyue Tower and found that, as Big Flower had said, there were people coming and going inside the Tianyue Tower, busy and happy, including those dressed in wealthy clothes. De Hua, the local snake, carefully introduced a few words to Meng Qing's ear. For example, the chubby man covered in silk is the eastern shopkeeper of the largest silk shop in the county. The skinny man with a short beard who had just left the house next to him was the Qing shopkeeper of Lu Qing's silver tower. Besides, the woman who had just stepped off the carriage had the mark on it as the largest embroidery village in the county, Baishio Pavilion. It was obvious that the woman was Zhang, who was skilled in embroidering the county. Wait a minute. Meng Qing also looked at De Hua in a new light. It seemed that what De Hua had said before was not just bragging, she really knew most of them. This also makes Meng Qing's subsequent plans much more convenient. The gaze towards the Big Flower adds even more love. Of course, now they are busy, and if you rashly go up alone and say you want to cooperate with the big shopkeeper, you are afraid of being kicked out as a troublemaker. Meng Qing naturally wouldn't be so reckless. De Hua, is there anyone else nearby? Meng Qing was not familiar with the children's begging range and had to ask De Hua. De Hua didn't disappoint her and directly spoke up, today is Xiaofeng and Shi here. Xiaofeng, Shi, and Xiaoyun happen to be 3 boys with carpentry talent. You go call them over, I want to ask them for a favor. Miss Xiaoqing, please wait for me. After speaking, she ran in one direction and didn't let Meng Qing wait much before running back. The 2 young boys following behind were Xiaofeng and Shi. Miss Xiaoqing. Miss De Hua said you have something to do with the 2 of us. Xiaofeng was bolder and couldn't help but show curiosity on her face. Well, I have something I want to ask for your help with. Could you please keep an eye on Tianyue Tower and let me know when you have free time? By the way, if you have any lively restaurants around you that are available, please let me know. Meng Qing felt that she couldn't put eggs in one basket, so she added a special sentence. Although they didn't understand the reason why Meng Qing did this, the 2 still agreed. Xiaofeng and his wife are also elderly people on the street, so they naturally have a clear understanding of which store is doing well. After all, the better the business, the more money they can get. Tianyue Tower usually has no one around 3/4 after noon. I'll tell you, Sister Xiaoqing. Xiaofeng patted her chest like a young man. There's me. Stone also refused to be outdone. After the agreement was made, Meng Qing let them continue their busy work, while she and De Hua returned to their thatched cottage where they lived. Xiaofeng and a few smaller girls from Huahua are still waiting for them. After a while, in Meng Qing's anticipation, he saw the figure of Xiaofeng outside the door, and even Meng Qing couldn't help but take 2 quick steps towards the door. Xiaoqing, Tianyue building is free now. I see Manager Lu at the counter doing the accounting, Xiaofeng shouted. Meng Qing received the exact news, only had time for the others to say it, and quickly left with Big Flower and Little Wind, heading towards the direction of Tianyue Tower. As for what to do, Meng Qing had already talked to De Hua before and even specially dressed her up to look neat and clean. At this moment, De Hua felt a little nervous and unconsciously clenched her clothes tightly with her fingers. Especially when Xiaofeng occasionally looks at her, this discomfort becomes even more severe. So the little face bounced tightly. A group of 3 walked quickly to the entrance of Tianhua building. Meng Qing did not immediately enter, but took a deep breath with Big Flower at the door, leaving Little Wind outside. I walked in at a leisurely pace. The running staff at Tianhua building still have a high level of professional ethics, and they did not rush out just because of Meng Qing's shabby attire. But instead, he took 2 quick steps and stopped at a spot 1 step away from the 2 of them, smiling and asking, "2 guests, but are you eating?" Regarding this service attitude, Meng Qing silently gave a good review in her heart. No wonder Tianhua building is doing well, not only because of the taste, but also because of this service attitude. "Second brother, please. My surname is Meng. If you have something to do with Manager Lu, could you please convey it on your behalf?" Meng Qing clenched his fist. In fact, she had already seen Manager Lu, who was not far away looking down to settle the accounts, but she still asked the younger brother to help pass on the necessary etiquette. Meng Qing still had a plan. Wang Er didn't expect these 2 seemingly shabby little women in front of him to immediately look for the shopkeeper. Especially the one following behind always feels a bit familiar. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Persuasion Success. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Persuasion Success. Fortunately, the shopkeeper was not far away, so Wang Er looked towards the shopkeeper, hoping to receive instructions from him. Manager Lu is already not far away, so he naturally listens to Meng Qing's words clearly and is also very puzzled about his intentions. However, he does not think that Meng Qing is making trouble for no reason. After all, Manager Lu still has some shortcomings in Xiaotao County. And in business, it is important to be harmonious and generate wealth. Even though Meng Qing doesn't seem like a big shot, he doesn't directly say anything to drive people away. When receiving the waiter's request, Manager Lu hesitated for a moment and walked out of the counter. "Send the waiter aside. Meng Xiaoyu, I am the shopkeeper of Tianhua Tower. I don't know if I have any guidance. I have met Manager Lu, and I just returned from the county government today. I heard some things from Director Liang, and I also know that Tianhua Tower is the first restaurant in Xiaotao County. I think I should inform Manager Lu 1 or 2. "Oh. You came from the county government." This statement piqued the interest of Manager Lu. He also knows about the Liang chief clerk. He is indeed a real person, and he has also dealt with him. "Come here, little friend, let's sit and talk." As he said, he led the person to Yejian. Since it is a confidential matter, it is naturally not suitable to speak in public. Manager Lu still has this idea in mind. Meng Qing didn't refuse either. After sitting down, he didn't show any interest and threw out the county magistrate's intention to rectify the numerous beggars in the county. Before Manager Lu could doubt the relationship between this matter and their Tianhua Tower, Meng Qing gave the answer. Shopkeeper Lu was shocked when he learned that the county government intended to assign beggars to merchants. You should know how many beggars there are in Xiaotao County. Even the people who escaped from the northern natural disasters are unknown. Even if their Tianhua Tower business is good, they cannot support so many people. After a moment of panic upon hearing Meng Qing's words, it was determined that the shopkeeper, who had been in charge for many years, was quite skilled in raising martial arts skills. Looking at Meng Qing's calm and composed demeanor, the little girl following behind kept lowering her head. Upon closer inspection, she still looked a bit familiar. "Little friend, I don't think you're just here to inform me about this," said Manager Lu confidently. He is a businessman who never believes in free lunch, but he doesn't know what the purpose of this young lady Meng is. "I'm here to help Manager Lu out of trouble." Meng Qing appeared full of confidence, while Manager Lu did not answer, as if waiting for Meng Qing to take on the next words. "These days, I have some knowledge about Tianhua Tower. The busiest times for Tianhua Tower are at noon and Yushur every day. However, the location of the restaurant is limited, and many people who cannot queue up have to settle for a second place. As a result, Tianyue Tower has lost some customers. That's right, but there's nothing we can do about it. Although Tianyue Restaurant is the #1 restaurant in Xiaotao County, with 3 floors up and down, it still can't satisfy all customers. Manager Lu nodded without denying Meng Qing's words. But what does this have to do with solving the beggars' problem as mentioned earlier? At this moment, Meng Qing changed his tone and said, I feel that this move by the county government is an opportunity for Tianyue Tower. Speaking of his takeout philosophy on his own, isn't it just a matter of one stroke? Manager Lu was suppressed by Meng Qing's ideas and, following her thoughts, found that it was indeed feasible. They also have takeout at Tianyue Tower, but most of them are from wealthy families in the county who come to buy and bring their own food boxes. According to Meng Qing's words, people who come from specialized schools to deliver have never heard of it. The more I thought about it, the more I became tempted, but I still asked cautiously, are you sure the county magistrate wants to do this? Meng Qing did not give a direct answer, but asked in reverse, if you can turn all the beggars in Xiaotao County into good people, wouldn't the county magistrate give up on such achievements? Manager Lu is also a decisive person. When he heard Meng Qing's words, his first reaction was that he wouldn't, and it wouldn't harm the interests of their merchants at this time. He just paid an extra delivery fee, which is not worth mentioning compared to the extra money earned. At this moment, Meng Qing slowly added, if Manager Lu still has doubts in his heart, why not temporarily try it for 3 days to see if the returns during these 3 days are much higher than usual. This can be said to have pierced the heart of Manager Lu, and for a moment, he felt that there was no one who understood him better than Meng Qing. If you could try 1 or 2 first, that would be the best, said Manager Lu eagerly. Who would dislike making too much money? It's just that the candidate for this beggar is not easy to determine, said Manager Lu with concern. Meng Qing secretly suggested to shopkeeper Lu that he would come forward and smile slightly, saying, I actually know a group of beggars who are begging for a living in Xiaotao County. I am familiar with all the streets and alleys in Xiaotao County, and with just a little training, I can be directly put to use. It happens to be a solution to shopkeeper Lu's urgent needs. Meng Xiaoyu has really helped a lot. Are you going to negotiate with the beggar or should I send someone over? Manager Lu rubbed his hands and asked. Manager Lu, don't worry. Let's talk about the compensation first, so that I can convince them not to. Meng Qing knew that Manager Lu was tempted, and his mentality became more stable. He began to talk about the conditions. Upon hearing this, Manager Lu frowned but did not refuse, waiting for Meng Qing to speak. Regarding this, Meng Qing did not speak out loud. Manager Lu also knows that they are beggars, and it is quite rare for them to maintain cleanliness on a daily basis, let alone wear clothes that are not very dignified. If they really work for Tianyue Tower, this move may only damage its appearance. What do you mean by little friend? If we could buy them 2 decent clothes, shoes, and socks, it would be great. Money is actually a small matter. In my opinion, for every successful delivery, giving them 5 yuan would be enough. If we win the host's favor, it's their own fate. What does Manager Lu think? I wonder how many people there are in this group of beggars. Not many, just about 10 people. Manager Lu quickly calculated in his heart that if there were only about 10 people, 2 sets of single clothes, shoes, and socks per person, it wouldn't cost much money, especially Meng Qing's proposal that a successful order would only cost 5 yuan. Which dish in Tianyue Tower is not based on 2 coins, and 5 yuan is really not worth mentioning. Just thinking about it can tell how much more silver can be earned. Nature would not refuse such a good thing. I agreed in one fell swoop. So, how about the little woman representing those beggars and signing this 3-day trial contract with Manager Lu? After both parties sign the agreement, each party should keep it safe. Manager Lu is also wealthy and generous, and he never hesitates. He withdrew silver money from his account and asked Wang Er to accompany him to buy clothes, shoes, and socks, hoping to start work as soon as possible. At the same time, don't forget to put up a notice at the door that Tianhua Tower can send people to deliver meals. It can be said that it was very swift and resolute. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Start preparation. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 6. Start preparation. From just now on, Xiaofeng was completely bewildered. Like him, there are also big flowers and stones that cannot be revived. At this moment, they are holding single clothes suitable for children, as well as shoes and socks. Why did Sister Meng Qing come to the cloth shop to buy for them as soon as she came out of Tianhua building? They suddenly became rich. Where did they get the money? Xiaofeng only felt that his mind had been overwhelmed by this question. Especially helping people like them, isn't it the little second brother from Tianhua Tower? He really wanted to ask Big Flower Sister, but unfortunately, Big Flower Sister has been distracted since just now. He has given her many glances, but Big Flower Sister didn't notice it even once. Xiaofeng went crazy in his heart, then looked at the stone again. Okay, he also fell into a silly smile, and there seemed to be a glimmer of crystal on the corner of his mouth. I can only hope that after returning, Sister Xiaoqing can give them an explanation. Wang Er followed them to a thatched cottage and found that there were still many children inside. The clothes in his hand were obviously bought for them. Even though he was a waiter from Tianhua building, he couldn't figure out what the shopkeeper was thinking at this moment. Fortunately, although I don't understand, I can still do things. After delivering the things and people, Wang Er left and returned to Tianhua Tower. The shopkeeper was still waiting for him to report back. The outsider left, and the originally quiet crowd immediately became boiling. Looking at these brand new clothes, they can't remember how long they haven't worn them. Arya wanted to reach out and touch it, but in the end, she timidly withdrew her hand, afraid of dirtying her new clothes. Although they were all excited, they all followed the rules very well, and no one took the initiative to put clothes on their bodies. Everyone is waiting for Meng Qing and De Hua to speak. At this moment, De Hua finally regained her senses in the eager eyes of her younger siblings. These are all things that Sister Xiaoqing asked the Tianhua Tower shopkeeper for, and she even found a job for everyone, he said in a daze. The person who originally asked the shopkeeper of Tianhua building for clothes, shoes, and socks had already shocked them, but they even found a job. The slightly older Xiaofeng and his companions were completely stunned, more shocked than knowing they had new clothes to wear. Xiaoyun struggled to swallow her saliva and asked, Miss Dahua, are you telling the truth? Can we still find a way out like this? The tone was full of disbelief. De Hua nodded, but in fact, she had not regained her senses from such a big impact. She was clearly just a little beggar. How could Sister Meng Qing persuade Manager Lu with those 3 or 2 words and even give away clothes, shoes, and socks? This shopkeeper Lu doesn't seem like a fool either. De Hua carefully recalled every word Meng Qing and Manager Lu said in the Tianhua building in her mind. I always feel that there are profound meanings that she doesn't understand. Meng Qing nodded beside her, indicating that Big Flower's words were true. Looking at the smiles on the faces of the children, coupled with the smooth progress of things, I am also very happy. Seeing them all eager to try one by one. He spoke up and said, I did sign an internship contract with Manager Lu from Tianhua building, but before doing so, I also need to receive training. These clothes, shoes, and socks are sponsored by Manager Lu for free. It's easy to put it on. Today, everyone can take a good hot shower and change into new clothes. Are you happy? Happy. Everyone shouted out with their loudest voice. Okay, since you're so happy, let's go boil hot water now and get ready to take a shower and wear new clothes. Okay, among them, the little fire expert, Xiaoyun Guden, and others ran very fast and occupied the position of the stove. Starting to use the only small broken pottery pot to boil water, the flames imprinted on their small faces. The remaining few little girls stood guard next to their new clothes, afraid of being snatched away. Meng Qing finally realized that she had bought a lot less daily necessities, but fortunately, there was still more than enough money left from the silver money given by Manager Lu before, so she could add some wooden bucket soap horns and so on. I hurriedly went to the grocery store and added these things. With new tools, the efficiency of boiling water has greatly improved. Almost all the children are malnourished and small in size. That wooden basin is perfect for bathing. Of course, men and women are washed separately. Watching the big flowers clean and change into new clothes. I just feel that everyone looks very good, either silly or clever, and rarely has the vitality of a child. Except for being a bit thin and weak, there is basically no problem. Meng Qing has a strong sense of achievement in her heart. The children touched their new clothes with care, and while taking a shower, Sister Xiaoqing roughly told them what they needed to do. It doesn't sound difficult. They are very flexible on weekdays and will definitely receive good reviews. It's just running around Xiaotao County, which they are most familiar with. Even the boys put down their harsh words and started to compete, feeling that they must be the one who gave the most gifts. A single order costs 5 yuan, which is more than asking for food for a whole day. Among them, De Bao, talent for business, Shi, and Xiao Yun were named. I have considerable confidence in myself. Everyone is looking forward to tomorrow coming soon. In the afternoon, a notice was also posted on the Tianyue building, asking those who were interested in ordering to leave their names. Someone will deliver the food to your doorstep tomorrow. Many people find it interesting to be able to solve the problem at home without having to make a special trip, even if they have received some extra money. It is not a big deal for those who can come to Tianyue Tower to eat. There are many people who are naturally determined. Meng Qing, on the other hand, wrote several promotional flyers on the cheapest paper before dark. Newspapers and the like have no capital, but promotional flyers can still be created. The target customers are those restaurants. Due to the fact that Xiaofang, Autumn Harvest, Chrysanthemum, and Dog Egg are the youngest of the 4 grades, Meng Qing thought of asking them to bring promotional materials to the restaurant street tomorrow. He even gave his own food delivery team a nice name. Xiaotong Takeout / Xiaotong Running Errands. The next morning, Meng Qing assigned tasks to everyone. Everyone is someone who often wanders the streets, so naturally they are not afraid. Instead, they are a bit more eager to try. The few people assigned to distribute flyers set off first. And the remaining people are led by De Hua and receive some service attitude training from Meng Qing. Simple language can win the favor of customers, why not do it? I heard Big Flower and Little Wind all exclaim in amazement, occasionally making sounds like, "Oh, wow." They found out for the first time that there were so many tricks in delivering a product. After setting off towards Tianyue Tower, Meng Qing gave 2 special instructions. Today is our first time going out to work at Xiaotong Waimai. You must remember the delivery staff's principles, which are to deliver on time, not to be too humble or arrogant, putting attitude first, and receiving and delivering more. Have you all remembered them? Remember, Big Flower said loudly, showing her absolute confidence in herself. Meng Qing is very satisfied with their spiritual outlook. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Children's Wisdom. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Children's Wisdom. Young ancestors, you can count it. Wang Er, who was arranged by the shopkeeper to wait at the door, saw Meng Qing's figure and quickly welcomed him. The few children behind naturally didn't miss out. I couldn't hide my amazement in my eyes. If I didn't say it, who would have believed that these well-dressed people in front of me would have been little beggars in the county town before? Second brother, I've been waiting for a long time. Wang Irma regained his composure and waved his hands repeatedly. Time is just right. Should you start working now or wait until it's time? Although he asked this question, in fact, Wang Er was only polite for a moment, because he was already very busy and it was very rare for him to find time to pick up a few people. Meng Qing raised an eyebrow slightly and asked, I don't know how many orders there are in total, and how long is it until the latest order is received. Seeing Meng Qing quickly entering the working state, Wang Er was naturally overjoyed and handed her the list of addresses and dishes that had already been prepared for delivery. I didn't even ask her if she could read, so I assumed she could understand it in general. Meng Qing was quite helpless about this. She really didn't understand traditional Chinese characters very well, so she had to guess with a hint. However, on the surface, it was quite calm and did not show any timidity. Based on guessing these words, Meng Qing quickly inquired about the familiar areas of Dahua and his team according to the different delivery areas, and helped them arrange the zones. Then, under everyone's gaze, Dahua carried a freshly baked food box and confidently and nervously began the delivery of the first order. Following Dahua's itinerary, the delivery address was quickly reached at Wu Xiucai's house. Before knocking on the door, Dahua took a deep breath hard to calm her tense heart. Remembering Meng Qing's words before departure, remember the 16-character rule, he knocked on the door and shouted, Xiao Tong, we're here to deliver food. Is anyone at home? Although she is a little girl, she is full of anger. Wu Xiucai's wife and mother were doing some sewing work at home when suddenly they heard a commotion outside the door and stopped together. Mother, it seems like someone is calling outside. Wu Xiucai's wife frowned and said with uncertainty. I heard it too, I thought I heard it wrong, Wu Mu nodded, feeling a bit strange. Usually, no one would come at this time. I seem to have heard something about delivering food, Wu's mother said again. This actually reminded Wu Li, patting her thigh and saying, I remember. Last night, my husband said that someone would come to bring us food and asked me not to cook today. It's hard not to come. The mother.in.law and daughter.in.law looked at each other, but in fact, neither of them took their son/husband's words to heart. They could cook for themselves, so why waste money? Now that people have come, naturally they won't open the door. Wu Li put down the needle and thread in her hand and quickly opened the door. What I saw was a little girl who was not even half her height, holding a food box that was about the same height as her. She frightened Wu Li and immediately covered her chest. Scared. De Huasi didn't realize that she had scared people. Seeing someone come out, I instinctively raised a smiling face and blurted out the words I had prepared for a long time. Xiaotong Takeout, your takeout has been delivered, please sign for it. At the same time, don't forget to hand over the wooden board and charcoal pen in your hand, and ask someone to leave a label to prove that it has really been delivered. This is the first time that Wu Li has experienced this process. I didn't sign for it directly, so I carefully picked up the food box first, fearing that it might exhaust the little girl. Xiaotong Takeout. Wu Li was curious about such a statement. That's our name. Could you please help sign for it, madam? Wu Li took the wooden board and left a mark on it. And he said, thank you very much, little girl. Wait a moment, I will return the food box to you. I will put the remaining silver money in the food box. Okay, madam. De Hua smiled obediently and had no intention of going in, quietly staying by the door. Such obedient behavior aroused the maternal love of Wu Li, who had not been married to her husband for long and had not yet had her own children. I couldn't help but slap Big Flower's head, she was confused by this sudden action. I don't understand why this lady is touching her head. The president is not very tall, right? Thinking of this makes it difficult for Dahua to laugh, but she remembers that she is still working and cannot rely on her own temperament. Before Dahua could finish struggling, Wu Li had already walked out with an empty food box and handed it to Dahua. Good child, thank you for bringing me the item. I have put the silver money in the food box. This is my reward for you, remember to keep it, he reminded he said and stuffed 2-1 into De Hua's hand. De Hua didn't expect to receive the legendary reward for her first order today. Sister Meng Qing once said that rewards belong to themselves. So she earned 2-1 plus 5-1 and 7-1 on her first order. Thinking of the money he has earned, De Hua's whole body is about to float. I don't even remember how I thanked the kind lady and left. The only constant is the ignited passion for making money. He ran straight back to Tianyue Tower without stopping. When I went back, I found that my friends seemed to have all gone to deliver the goods. De Hua looked around and didn't see anyone familiar. Sister Meng Qing is not here either. Unable to find anyone to share her joy with, De Hua's excited heart calmed down slightly. Thinking of the remaining silver in the food box, De Hua quickly took it to the counter to cancel the account and handed over the customer's signature for receipt. The accounting room was also instructed in advance. After checking the markings, they made a mark on the delivered account book and recorded the final payment. This complete order is considered complete. And she started her next order. Within this hour, none of De Hua and his companions stopped coming. At this time, Meng Qing went to investigate the new market, more precisely to find the 4 people who distributed flyers. When they arrived, they found that the 4 of them were very clever. They were not waiting for someone to come to their door, but rather taking action according to the situation. They remembered everything they said, and their main target customers were those small food stalls. She even saw dog eggs stuffing the flyer through the crack in the door. Meng Qing couldn't help but marvel that in ancient times, it was still inevitable to fill small advertisements, even though she herself was the initiator of this matter. Seeing the children working so hard, Meng Qing naturally couldn't hold back. Those restaurants that haven't opened yet don't count. Meng Qing walked into those restaurants that have already opened for business. For example, this is the Su family restaurant. At this point, we haven't arrived at the restaurant yet, and there aren't many people in the restaurant. Meng Qing didn't mean to beat around the bush, he just spoke up to find the person in charge. Su Yuan was busy in the kitchen when he was pulled out by his own son and saw a young and imposing young lady. Faced with his son's distrustful gaze, Su Yuan always felt a bit wronged. Seeking investment and collection, end of this chapter. Chapter 8. Making Money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Making Money. Mr. Su, the girl's surname is Meng. I heard that Mr. Su's restaurant has a unique taste in the county. I have a business that I want to talk to Mr. Su about. It turned out to be about business, and Su, who was a bit nervous, breathed a sigh of relief. I thought the young lady Meng in front of me was here to sell things. He had encountered many people like this, usually those who grew things in the countryside to sell and support their families. She politely declined and said, "I'm sorry, Miss Meng. Our ingredients are all ordered from specialized places, so we don't accept them from other places." Meng Qing knew immediately that the other party had misunderstood. So without paying attention, Shi Shiran spoke up and said, "Boss Su misunderstood. The little woman is not talking about this business, but about takeout. Delivery." Su Yi and his son exchanged a glance, but they had never heard of this before. Meng Qing knew that when something new appeared, there was always time for people to accept it, and everyone had a certain herd mentality. He calmly began to raise the banner. "Yes, it's food delivery. This is supported by the county magistrate. Manager Liu from Tianyue building has already cooperated with us and started the delivery business, which means delivering food from restaurants. In addition to the cost of dine-in, he also earns an extra share of the delivery money." Boss Su Yishu had to say that he was a bit scared by the amount of information in Meng Qing's words. The 2 people involved in this can be considered significant figures for him. And the young lady Meng in front of her could actually get involved with these 2 people. After being surprised, disbelief followed. The young lady Meng in front of me is too young. Can her words be true? Meng Qing naturally didn't miss the questioning in Mr. Su's eyes. If Mr. Su doesn't believe it, you can find someone to go to Tianyue Tower to take a look. Our delivery team is currently very busy, and I think today Tianyue Tower's accounts will be even better than usual. Meng Qing's resolute statement seems to be a sign of full confidence. Boss Su, think carefully, I won't disturb you anymore. Meng Qing didn't insist on being too aggressive, so he said goodbye and left the Su family restaurant, leaving Su Yi and his son frowning incessantly. There are many similar situations, and Meng Qingleng relied on himself to run through all the places where food was made in Xiaotao County, not even letting go of the small stalls. Of course, different strategies are adopted for different places. It is impossible to directly discuss small stalls and other places. Meng Qing chose to arouse others' curiosity and promote the existence of Xiaotong Takeout, with a focus on county government support. Even though most people adopt a reserved attitude towards this, Meng Qing's goal has already been achieved. Meng Qing rubbed her slightly sore calves as she walked, and led the four of Xiaofang, who had successfully completed the task, towards the direction of Tianyue Tower. She was going to pick up the 7 of them, De Hua. Unexpectedly, De Hua and the others were gathering in the kitchen for a meal. After inquiring, I realized that De Hua and his team were too efficient. They delivered their orders on time, and their constant behavior also advertised other people eating at Tianyue Tower, resulting in receiving several takeout orders for the evening and lunch orders for the next day. Lu, the shopkeeper, waved his hand and gave De Hua and the others a meal. Even Meng Qing and the others have a share. Meng Qing was calculating with a clattering sound in her heart, which was great and saved her another sum of money. After finishing the meal, Meng Qing was forced to take the private room to Lu, the shopkeeper who couldn't wait. Meng Xiaoyu, I just checked my account and I have to say, these people under your command are really this. Manager Lu gave a thumbs up. Obviously, he was very satisfied with the money he earned. It's only been an hour, and the money he earned is almost as good as the usual for a whole day. How can he be dissatisfied? Meng Qing's attitude towards coming to cooperate with him naturally improved. Not to mention anything else, this idea, this brain, at first glance, is born to do business, especially since he had already gone to inquire about the news with Mr. Liang yesterday. From the attitude of Director Liang, it is clear that Meng Qing's previous words were not deceiving him, and the county magistrate really had some thoughts. Now Mr. Lu, the shopkeeper, can be said to be walking in front of all the merchants in Xiaotao County, and he may have to show his face greatly. This is the real reason why Manager Lu's smile has been lingering. Manager Lu is polite, thanks to Manager Lu's support for our Xiaotong Takeout. This is a win-win situation for us. Meng Qing picked up the teacup beside her and gestured to Manager Lu. Win-win, that's right, it's a win-win situation. The two of them drank a cup of tea instead of wine. The shopkeeper Lu spoke up and said, it's just that Meng Xiaoyu doesn't have enough people under his command. As soon as he tasted the sweetness, the shopkeeper Lu couldn't wait to expand his scale. Manager Lu, it's not the right time yet. We talked about it well at the time. The 3-day probationary period has just passed, and our main action this time is to help the county magistrate, so we can't be in a hurry. In fact, Meng Qing himself was extremely poor and had no money to expand his scale. He didn't even have a decent base, and Meng Qing felt extremely bitter in his heart. Of course, none of these will make Mr. Lu, the old fox, see it. Upon hearing these words, Manager Lu realized that Meng Qing's words made sense, so he didn't dwell on this topic. But instead, he picked up a nearby ledger and said, this is the ledger for your little fellow takeout during lunchtime. There were 7 people, and a total of 75 loose orders. According to the agreed price, each order costs 5 yuan, totaling 375 yuan. Please order. Oh my goodness, this is the first time Meng Qing has seen so many copper coins. Of course, Manager Lu's account is not wrong. By the way, I also want to thank Manager Lu for keeping us eating here. These are all small things, after all, we need to cooperate more in the future. Manager Lu was very magnanimous about these small things. After receiving the reward, Meng Qing and his group walked confidently on the street with their full and well-fed little ones. It was impossible, so don't panic a few people. Afraid of being known for their wealth, as soon as they left Tianyue Tower, they quickly left towards their own stronghold thatched cottage. As soon as they arrived home, the Hua and the others didn't forget to peek outside the door. Afraid of being tracked, come and steal the money they have finally earned. They have already heard from Sister Meng Qing that they ran for an hour and earned a total of 375 won. For these little beggars, this number is simply an astronomical number, and even the most mature flowers have a feeling of seeing Venus in their eyes at this moment. They surprisingly earned so much money. The idea that followed was that Sister Meng Qing was really amazing. A few words helped them earn so much money. In the future, you must listen to Sister Meng Qing. Sister Meng Qing is super talented, just like a fairy in a story who can help people fulfill their wishes. Meng Qing still didn't know that her image in the hearts of Dahua and the others should have been deified, otherwise she would definitely be embarrassed and explode in place. The 4 people who were arranged to distribute flyers, although they did not make any money, all had bright eyes and were full of joy. Seeking collection, seeking investment, signed, end of this chapter. Chapter 9. Buying Grain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Buying grain. Next is the time when everyone is eagerly anticipating and sharing small amounts of money. Amidst everyone's expectant gaze, Meng Qing pulled out a money bag. What is inside is exactly the result of everyone's efforts today. That's 375 won. And De Hua and the others who participated in the meal delivery also took out the wooden boards with signed signs. Sister Xiaoqing said that they need to rely on this thing for settlement, but we can't forget it. One by one, they lined up honestly. Before distributing the money, Meng Qing spoke at the beginning. In the future, everyone will be a family, and everyone is making contributions to the family. Therefore, a portion of the money earned by each person will be handed over to the public middle school, which is considered shared by everyone. Now, everyone's wages are 5 won per successful delivery, so 3 won per delivery will be handed over to the public middle school, and 2 won will be kept by yourself. Whether you give rewards or not will be handed over to yourself. If you submit them, they will also be registered separately. No one has any objections to this. Originally, Sister Meng Qing found such a good thing, and surprisingly, she asked them to leave 2 won for each order. They ran a lot, and even managed to survive a day without receiving the silver they gave as a reward. When the copper coins were truly handed out to them, De Hua and others were all laughing their teeth out of sight. Of course, Meng Qing will not forget the 4 people who handed out flyers. Although they did not deliver takeout, they also put in some effort, so Meng Qing also gave each of them 5 won as wages. The 4 of Xiaofang, who thought they didn't have them, looked at the 5 copper coins in their palms and blushed with excitement. This is their first time earning silver money. Looking left and right, I can't see enough. It looks like my face wants to get into the eyes of money. Big Flower and Little Wind, the 2 big ones, couldn't stand it anymore. One person and 2 others led the 4 of them away. As they looked happy, Meng Qing's face also lit up with a smile. I feel that everything I do is meaningful, even if it's not for anything else, just to protect such a smile. At the same time, Meng Qing also registered everyone's performance separately. Among them, De Hua gave the most, with one person running 15 orders, 8 of which even received tips, ranging from 2 won to more than 10 won. Just giving a reward can amount to as much as 60 won. Next, there are 3 boys, Xiao Feng, Xiao Yun, and Shi, all around 10 orders and not many rewards. Meng Qing thought it might be because these 3 boys are not sweet enough. The rewards given by 3 people combined are similar to those given by one person, De Hua. The rest remain in a state of 7 or 8 singles, all of which are very good. What surprised Meng Qing the most was that one of the little girls named Hua took out a small purse from her arms, which contained a silver flower student weighing 2 coins. Replacing it with a copper plate would look like about 201. Without exception, they were all entrusted to Meng Qing for safekeeping. Put all personal accounts in order. Xiaodong's takeout business started for the first time, with a total income of 225 yuan and an additional tip of 320 yuan plus 2 coins in silver. With some money, Meng Qing couldn't help but want to add something. There are really too many things that are missing. Meng Qing felt that she needed to buy this one, and that one too. After calculating, she realized that she might not have enough money, so she had to sneak over to Hua, who was still excited, and to Bao, who had a talent for business, for their advice. Chrysanthemum Child is still too young, although she has talent, Meng Qing still didn't bring her along. After listening to Meng Qing's words, De Hua and De Bao, who were pulled over, rubbed their noses. Do they want to buy so many things? They feel that life is already very good now, with new clothes, shoes, and wages. In the eyes of Sister Meng Qing, they still lack so much. As the eldest sister, De Hua is determined to continue working hard and earn more money. As Sister Meng Qing said, they will become a family in the future. With so many younger brothers and sisters below, she needs to work hard to support them. Silently clenching their fists to boost themselves. De Bao's eyes lit up, with only a small amount of money in his eyes. After today, he developed a strong interest in the activity of making money. And I fully agree with Sister Meng Qing's words that money is not saved up, but spent, which is not called waste of money, but called early investment. Upon hearing these words, De Bao had a sense of enlightenment, as if he had found his life goal. While looking at the small money, he also looked at Meng Qing with a burning gaze. Meng Qing saw the vastly different performances of the two and pondered whether this could have sparked De Bao's interest in business. It seems that even if one already has talent, they need someone to guide and inspire them. Reading also needs to be put on the agenda. As the saying goes, reading makes one wise. It is impossible to buy a pen, ink, paper, and inkstone with this money. I wonder if I can afford the Enlightenment 3-piece set. Or where can she go to play the Autumn Breeze? No, for business purposes, how can we say that playing the Autumn Breeze is clearly to attract sponsorship? Meng Qing kept calculating the feasibility of this matter in her heart. Time is still too short. Anyway, the contract was signed for 3 days. When the time comes, take this contract and the bill from Tianyue building to find Master Liang. I think there may be unexpected gains. The three of them finally discussed and decided to buy some rice and grain to come back. Only by eating well can they have the energy to work. We can't always indulge in the food at Tianyue Tower. De Bao volunteered bravely and pulled up his buddies. Sure, Shixiafeng wanted to follow Meng Qing. Meng Qing naturally wouldn't refuse, and it can be considered as giving De Bao a practical lesson. Having brought enough silver, he headed towards the grain shop. After calculating the required rations for 12 people, I arrived at the entrance of the grain shop and saw today's grain prices written on it. A bucket of 61 is likely due to the impact of the northern disaster, which has led to a significant increase in grain prices. According to De Bao, the previous bucket was still 41. Shopkeeper, the price of grain has increased quite a bit. Meng Qing and the shopkeeper spoke up, hoping to hear some news from it. Generally speaking, the world is not peaceful, and these grain merchants react faster than the government. It's rising. There's not much harvest in the north, and there's also a shortage of grain in the south. That's why it's rising. If it's not excessive, it's definitely enough. How much does the young lady want? I had originally planned to buy more grain, but I never expected the price of grain to rise so much, so I can't buy much anymore. Meng Qing pretended to be in a difficult situation, wondering whether to buy the expensive grain. The grain shop shopkeeper looked at Meng Qing and his group dressed in the simplest single clothes and linen, thinking they were from a poor family. He kindly reminded them, "Young lady, if you want to buy grain, it's better to buy more now. The grain won't spoil when you put it away. Meng Qing's heart twitched upon hearing these words, and he tentatively said, "Is it possible that there will be further price increases in the future?" "It's not good either, it depends on whether the heavens will give face or not," the shopkeeper said evasively. Meng Qing has come to an end. It seems that the drought in the north is becoming more severe. The more severe the disaster, the more volatile the price of grain becomes. Although De Bao didn't understand why they were just here to buy grain and chatted, he would keep things he didn't understand in his heart and carefully ponder them. For example, now he would raise his ears high and listen to everything Meng Qing and the shopkeeper said. Seeking collection and investment, end of this chapter. Chapter 10. Big-handed writing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Big-handed writing. De Bao and the three of them can understand the meaning of the words, grain prices will probably rise again in the future. Meng Qing originally planned to save some money to buy the Enlightenment 3-piece set, but now that he knows about the future increase in grain prices, he has to adjust the use of the funds. Use most of the money to buy grain. After careful consideration, I still couldn't bear to buy this year's new rice. Instead, I chose to buy old rice from last year or the year before. Meng Qing inquired and found that the price would be about 10 won cheaper than this year's new rice. That's 31 per dough. Meng Qing was ruthless and bought 5 bushels of aged rice, spending 151. He also asked for 3 bushels of wheat flour, spending 61. A total of 210 articles. It can be said that all the money in the company has been spent. Fortunately, when I came out, I agreed with De Hua and them that if there wasn't enough money, I could borrow a tip. I bought salt and sugar with the remaining 5 won, all in a small package. Meng Qing was heartbroken. In the end, they still didn't want to spend a lot of money on their tips. When returning, Meng Qing was holding a large bag of grain, immersed in his own thoughts, while De Bao, Shi, and Xiao Feng walked behind with other grains in their arms. Very tacitly did not disturb Meng Qing, always feeling that she was thinking about something very serious. At the same time, they were also pondering the words of Sister Xiaoqing and the shopkeeper just now, attempting to analyze the reason why Sister Xiaoqing's expression was so solemn. When they returned to their stronghold, the remaining Da Hua and others were all stunned by the things in De Bao's hands. Why did you buy so much food? Although puzzled, he looked at his younger brothers who were almost unable to hold them, so he immediately stepped forward and took the grain bags from their hands and put them away. And let Ye quickly bring water over. The 3 people who have drunk water are considered to have come back to life. Meng Qing also received a cup of cold boiled water. Looking at Yaya's dark face with 2 blushes, her restless mood improved and she refused to let go. After drinking water, I feel much more comfortable all over. Her body is really poor, that little thing almost made her legs weak. De Hua also learned about the increase in grain prices from De Bao and his team, which helped him understand why they had bought so much grain back. I feel like it's enough for them to eat for a long time. Everyone is happy to have so much food, which means they won't go hungry. This is the first time they have used money to buy food. My heart is filled with joy. They are also people who can afford food. De Hua is more mature, and after hearing De Bao talk about the increase in grain prices, he specifically came to ask Meng Qing. Xiaoqing, does the increase in grain prices mean that there will be more and more people like us in the future? Xiaoqing's face furrowed together, with obvious sadness in her eyes. Meng Qing had always been optimistic about De Hua and had no intention of hiding it from her. Instead, he nodded and carefully instructed, the price of grain can reflect many problems. Now that the price of grain has almost doubled compared to before, it indicates that the disaster situation in the north is very serious. I also fled from the north. When our family left, the area was already in panic, and the entire village was able to escape. The fact that grain prices are still rising indicates that the disaster situation there has not eased at all. When speaking, Meng Qing's expression was very solemn. Although she had not personally experienced it, the scene in her original memory made her feel as if she was there. Only those who have escaped difficulties can appreciate the terror involved. If it weren't for the hard protection of my parents at home, I'm afraid my life would have been ruined long ago. Even so, the only surviving member of their family is her. Thinking of these, Meng Qing's eyes were filled with sadness, causing De Hua to also feel sour in her heart. One couldn't help but hug Meng Qing, crying loudly. Meng Qing was also dumbfounded by De Hua's tears. She was stunned and didn't react at all, but her body instinctively hugged her. "What's wrong, De Hua? Why did she suddenly cry?" Seeing De Hua crying all the time without speaking, Meng Qing regained his senses and became anxious. "I've known De Hua for so long, it's the first time I've seen her cry, and she's still crying so sadly." The other people who were originally surrounded by the grain heard crying and quickly ran over. Unexpectedly, it was their elder sister who was crying. I felt a bit confused for a moment. Fortunately, De Hua was a boss who wanted face. When he heard the chaotic footsteps behind him, he knew that the younger brothers had all come over and gradually stopped crying. With red eyes, he said to Meng Qing, "Sister Xiaoqing, I'm fine. I just miss my parents." His voice was very low, and only Meng Qing, who was closest to her, could hear him clearly. Knowing that she didn't want others to know, Meng Qing thoughtfully waved to Xiao Feng and the others, asking them to leave first. Although very worried, Xiao Feng and the others walked away sensible, but their footsteps were quite slow, looking back as they walked. It seems that this way more information can be heard. Among them, De Bao and Hua Hua were clever and even wanted to secretly poke and eavesdrop. They were taken away by Xiao Feng and Shitu one by one. Meng Qing held the big flower and gently patted her back. "De Hua, although we haven't known each other for a long time, you are still my life-saving benefactor. You are a few years younger than me in age, and in my heart, you are just like my younger sister. So if you have any grievances in your heart, you can tell me, and I guarantee that I won't tell anyone else." Perhaps it was because she cried too much just now, and De Hua spoke a bit hesitantly. Meng Qing didn't mean to urge her, so she patiently listened to her words. Originally, De Hua's background was very similar to Meng Qing's. Her family was considered a wealthy family in the village, and she didn't want it to be so bad that the bandits robbed her. She was the only one who was young and was put into a pile of firewood by her mother, so she managed to escape the robbery. She was sent to the nursery by the government, and although she was seriously frightened, it also made her have an extraordinary obsession with strength. From her ability as a girl to become the leader of a beggar faction, even though the team consists of only half-aged children, this is enough to show De Hua's ability. Watching both parents die in front of one's own eyes is an extremely cruel experience for a child. Meng Qing couldn't even imagine how De Hua had come these past few years. He didn't mean to interrupt De Hua, but after De Hua finished speaking, he remained silent for a long time, as if he had just returned to his own voice. He murmured, "De Hua, let me give you a name. Do you still remember your original surname?" "Name? Is it that formal big name?" "My surname is Ji, and I don't know which specific character it is. Originally, my father said he would ask Mr. Xiuzai for help when I was a little older." De Hua said in a somewhat low voice. "Is De Hua willing to let me give you a name?" Meng Qing looked into De Hua's eyes and asked, "The new name represents a new, different, and bright future. This is also what Meng Qing hopes to bring to these unfortunate children. A brand new future." End of this chapter.